All right. Surprise, guys. How we doing tonight? We are on the DE Band of Brothers Tuesday night call. I'm filling in tonight for Dr. Brian Lieberman. This is Dr. Brian Moriarty, and I want to start out this call by saying thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone in DE land for all your thoughts and prayers with the passing of my mother. Thank you, guys. It really means the world to me that you guys, you know, have reached out and sent love and flowers and everything. You guys are just mean the world to me, and I appreciate it so much in my time of need. So thank you, thank you, thank you, guys, so much from the bottom of my heart. But for tonight, we're going to keep things rolling. We got some events coming up here, guys, with DE. We got the Chiro Cup coming up. Who's excited for the big Chiro Cup here? Third annual Chiro Cup, raising funds for opioid prevention and recovery through chiropractic. So that is next Thursday, October 8th, in Ackworth, Georgia here. If you guys are in town, definitely want to get registered there. I will be there coming up from Florida. My good friend Eddie Martinez, I know, is coming. Steve Judson's coming. We got a lot of people from out of town coming, so don't think you have to live in Georgia to be at the Chiro Cup. We would love to see you there, guys, for the GCC. Support those guys. They're a huge state organization that's kicking butt. So, wow, look at this view behind me, guys. This is from my new house. Pretty cool, huh? Beautiful over the water. You got the bridge in the background. Love this. And then we got DE in a couple weeks, guys. DE. Rise Up time, guys. October 15th through the 18th. There's all your dates. We also got January. We got Sarasota. We got Greece. We got Atlanta. Like a phoenix, we shall rise up from the ashes. Guys, I know we just had DE a couple months ago, but it's coming back and better than ever. You do not want to miss this. The last one was epic. Make your reservations. It's not too late. It used to be you couldn't get a last-minute flight. Now you can. Usually they're cheaper at that point. So definitely make your plans for DE. I'll be there. All your favorite people will be there. Come fellowship. Give everybody a hug. And I know that our guest has told me that he will be there as well. So let's get things going. And with our special guest tonight, Dr. Jamie Siller is an absolute warrior in the chiropractic profession, been doing it for nearly 30 years, been battling with his health, and now the guy looks amazing. I was just chatting with him before we got on here, guys, and this guy's just kicking butt out there from Yuba City, California. Apparently that's very close to Sacramento. Never heard of it, never been there, but apparently that place is full of the principal because this guy's here. Please give it up for our guest tonight, Dr. Jamie Siller.
Oh, those are some great pictures. Thank you, Brian. I thought I would talk tonight about how I got to DE and how DE changed my life, and then talk about my health challenge a little bit. So about 12 years ago, our governor, Arnold, decided chiropractors did need to be treating work comp cases. And me being a heavily, pretty much all insurance-based mixer, if you will, overnight I lost a third of my business and really didn't know what to do. And my best friend from chiropractic college, Mauricio Santino, called out of the blue. And I thought, this is great. Here's a shoulder that I can cry on. And so I explained the situation to him, and he didn't give me the answer that I wanted to hear, but he gave me the truth. He said, that's the best news that I've heard all year long. He said, now we're going to see who the chiropractors are in that state. And if you want to be one of them, I suggest you get to DE. And which I did, and it absolutely changed my life. And just a side note on Mauricio Sandino, he went over there to Spain in the early 90s, and he was one of the first, just a handful of chiropractors practicing over there. And when he went over there, he got sued by the physical therapist for practicing physical therapy without a license. So he got dragged into court, and if it wasn't for him, chiropractic probably wouldn't be over there in Spain. But he ended up doing his lay lecture for the jury. And the next day, the judge's wife showed up at his office. So we absolutely had the right DE man over there in Spain, and he's killing it over there. I love the guy to death. But anyway, he got me to DE, and one of the first speakers that I heard was Jim Sigafus, and he broke down the principle. And he said there's a universal intelligence in all matter which continually gives to it all its properties and actions, thus maintaining it in existence. And he says, what's universal mean? It basically means that there's nowhere this intelligence isn't found in this universe. It's everywhere, anywhere. It's omnipresent. And he said, what does intelligence mean? And it means exactly that it's infinitely smart, that it knows, that it's all-knowing, that it's omniscient. And he said, is it in some matter or all matter? And obviously, it's in all matter, inorganic, organic matter, right down to the smallest rock. He said if that rock didn't have its properties and actions, keeping it in existence, those molecules would just fly away and that rock would cease to exist. Same with our world. And he said, so what's a synonym for something that's all-knowing, always present, omniscient, omnipotent? And obviously, the answer is God. And myself being analytical, it really changed my life, because when you tell me that 2,000 years ago, there's a guy running around creating these miracles, raising people from the dead, walking on water, to me, that's just all hearsay. If I can't see it, if I don't understand it, it just doesn't register with me. And so when he broke that principle down, and now I know that there's a intelligence out there that's running everything. Even this body, there's a subset of that intelligence doing the billions of electrochemical processes in my body, then anything's possible. I mean, walking on water or moving about, for that matter, should be relatively easy compared to what's going on in this body every second of my life. So I think that's what really saved me from my current health challenge. Many of you know that I was diagnosed about 2 years ago with squamous cell carcinoma, and it's related to the human papillomavirus. And the way that shows up in men is the virus somewhere in your teen years attaches to your tonsil, and in men in their mid-50s, that virus begins to express itself. And my tonsil swelled up, and I didn't think anything about it. I thought, my innate can handle this, no problem. So I put it off for a couple of months, and pretty soon I started to get a bit of a lump on my neck. And I thought, there's no way. I'm exercising. I was in great shape. I was a runner all my life. I go to the gym and put the treadmill on 10 and run a 6-minute mile for 2 miles, and then lift weights. I was eating properly, getting adjusted every week, sleeping good. And finally, I asked my chiropractor, I said, what do you think? And he said, I thought you probably got that checked out a long time ago. And so I went down to the local urgent care. I knew the doctor down there. I was taking care of his family, and he's not a big pill pusher for the most part. And he looked at me and did exam, and he said, I think it's probably an infection. We'll give you some antibiotics and see what happens. And I thought, well, in the meantime, I'm going to go, there's a homeopathy in Sacramento near here. I'm going to go and get vitamin C injections, boost my immune system just in case. And when I went down there, he took one look at me and he said, "No, we got to get this biopsy right away." And he said, "I'm going to send you down the street. There's a clinic, because I didn't have any insurance at the time, that will do a biopsy for $300. I said, "Okay, well, let's get it done." So I showed up down there and they wanted $1,000. And I think it was a DE office, because I told the front desk lady, I said, "My medical doctor thinks it's an infection. I really don't want to spend $1,000. She said, "Stay right here. I'm going to talk to the doctor. I'll be back in a minute." And she came out and she said, "You know what? The doctor wants to see you. He said he'll do it for $500. I said, "Okay, let's do it." And he's digging around in there with a needle, looking in the microscope. And I said, "Hey, doc, I hate taking antibiotics. I really don't want to be on them if I don't have to be on them. Can you give me a little insight here?" And he said that, "Yeah, you don't need to be on them." And my heart just sank. And yeah, the diagnosis came back, squamous cell carcinoma. So I always told myself that I would never do chemo, radiation, unless it was an absolutely last resort. So I ended up doing an integrative approach in Reno, where they did different things like the vitamin C, intravenous injections, mistletoe. They did IPT, insulin potentiated therapy, which was kind of cool. They would cancer cells have 10 times the insulin receptors as a normal cell. So what they do is give you insulin, lower your blood sugar down to the point where you get all goofy. Those cancer cells would extend their receptors, and then they would give you a low dose of chemotherapy, and the cancer cells would take on the majority, so there was very little side effects, so to speak. And so I did that every day for 3 weeks. $30,000 later, the lump shrunk maybe by half, and the doctor said, excuse me one second. There's a good chance that the cells are dead and your body just needs time to replace those with healthy cells. So I went home, and for a couple of weeks, things looked pretty good. But then all of a sudden, things blew up. That lump got to the size of about a softball. The tonsils swelled clear across to where I couldn't breathe, no matter how hard I tried, out of one nostril, and was over into the other side of the nostril. I figured I had a week to 10 days before they would have to trach me in order to breathe. And so I got in to an ear, nose, and throat doctor that was actually a savior. He got me somehow in to an oncologist, no, a radiologist day after, and an oncologist within a few days after that. And it was kind of touch and go there at first. And the oncologist told me, she gave me a 50-50 chance of living. And she said, and that's if it doesn't metastasize. If it metastasize, that's no good. And so I started radiation. They also told me that I needed to take 6 months to a year off of work, which I don't know how anybody does that. And it was my saving grace, being having a purpose of taking care of people, having people relying on me. But I started radiation, and just kind of describe how brutal and chaotic that is. They actually build a mask where they mold it to your face, nose, and they don't want any movement whatsoever when you're getting radiated. And then they bolt you down to the table so that you can't move. And then they also explain that when they radiate, they're gonna, the way he described it, is make bacon out of your throat. So I had to get on a feeding tube, and within 3 weeks of radiation, I could no longer swallow. And the last week of radiation, you would lay there, and since you couldn't swallow, you had to spit. Well, when you're laying there on your back, bolted to the table, you would have to just save up your saliva. And I used to be a big abalone diver, free diver, and so I could hold my breath for close to 2 minutes. And so I figured out by the tone of the machine when I had about a minute left of the radiation, and I would just basically hold my breath. And one time I misjudged that by a little bit, and by the time they got the mask off me, I was basically gurgling. I thought I was going to drown in my own spit. But, and so I got done with that. Things looked much better. Feeling horrible though. I got my first test, and the scan showed that this whole area was doing much better, but it did metastasize to my lungs. I had 6 or 7 spots on my lungs. It didn't look good. The oncologist explained to me when I asked her the hard question, she said, yeah, now we're just trying to keep the cancer to a minimum, seeing how long we can keep you alive, is how she explained that. And she wanted to do more chemo, and I had opted out. There was going to be 3 rounds initially of chemo, and I only did 2 rounds and opted out of the 3rd round of that. I said, well, I'm still not willing to go down that road, but I am willing to do some more radiation. So there was 2 bigger spots that we decided to radiate on my lungs. And a typical day would be I would get up in the morning, pour a couple of formulas down my tube, drive down the driveway. I have a rather long driveway, about a half-mile drive into my driveway, and I have to get out and throw up. And since my throat didn't work real well, everything would come out my nose. Anyway, go to work, just dog tired. And one Friday night, got off work, came home, and Christine and I were watching a movie, and I just had this feeling that something wasn't right. So I got up and I thought, I'm just going to go to the bathroom first, and then I'm going to let Christine know that she needs to take me to the ER. So I got up, and on my way back, I passed out, hit my head on the hardwood floor. When I woke up, Christine's yelling over the top of me, "Are you all right? Are you right?" And I looked, and there's a great big pool of vomited blood. I said, "No, I'm not all right. We need to get me to the ER." And the ambulance can't find our house, so you're going to have to figure out a way to get me in the vehicle and get me to the ER. And she got me in the vehicle and rode down the hill. I remember feeling just like the drunkest that you've ever been. Just one eye open, looking out the window, contemplating what that tree was doing at that moment in time. And luckily she had called my brother to meet us at the emergency room. And we got to the emergency room. My brother was waiting out with a wheelchair, and he wheeled me into the emergency room. And of course, there's a long line. And my brother says, "Get out of the way. He's going to bleed out." And everybody turned around and looked at me. And I thought, these guys are never going to give up their place in line. And everybody went to the side. And I went, oh, that's probably not good. And it wheels me to the front, and the lady says, here's the forms you got to fill out, your insurance forms, blah, blah, blah. My brother said, he's about to bleed out. Look out, I'm getting him to the back. And she said, no, you're not. You're going to fill these forms out. And excuse my French, but he said, get the F out of the way. He's going in the back. And he darn near ran her over, got me to the back. And there was one of my patients was a head nurse on duty that day. And she said she took one look at me and she'd never seen that shade of gray. She said it was pretty ungodly, the color I was. And what had happened is, and they won't tell me, but I believe that the radiation burned a hole in my stomach and an artery had burst. And so they had to give me 4 pints of blood. I understand she told me that the average person has 7 to 8 pints of blood. And they had to do emergency surgery and cauterize that I had to cauterize that artery, and had to spend 4 or 5 days in the emergency room. But the reason I tell you this is that I was able to work all the way through this with help from people like Bill Bollinger, and a couple other brothers would come in and would cover me a couple of days a week, and then I would come in a couple of days a week. But it wasn't for that principle, knowing that there's somebody out there, somebody within you watching out for you, was just a game changer. Never once through all of that did I feel impending doom, did I feel that I wasn't going to make it. And in fact, I remember talking to my innate several times saying, if you got better plans for us, oh man, let's get the heck out of here. But I'm having a great time here. I love to stay. I love my job. I love my wife. I don't want to leave her. Let's do this thing. And I'm happy to say that I found, for those of you that might have cancer, I found a book by Jane McClellan called How to Starve Cancer. And it just made sense to me that there's other ways to kill the cancer stem cells. And she talks about it in her book. And it's a lot of work, but in my opinion, chemo and radiation isn't going to do it. You need to take your health in your own hands and figure out a way of making it through this. I'm happy to say my last scan showed everything's clear. I have just a couple of spots on my lungs, which they think is scar tissue, and they continue to get smaller. I am still on immunotherapy every 6 weeks. It's supposed to be done every 3 weeks, but I had an adverse reaction to that as well. And so we're doing it half dose basically every 6 weeks. So I'm not out of the woods yet, but everything's looking great, feeling great. Practices taking off again. It's amazing what you put out there. When I was really down in the trenches and needed to be here but didn't want to be busy, I put out there that I'm seeing too many people, and instantly they disappeared. And I thought, well, at least I got my lifers that are going to be here, and they were actually the first ones to leave. So be careful what you put out there. But now that I'm feeling better and putting out there that it's time to get busy, things are picking up. And I would like to just ask you all to pray for Denise Dobbs, Tim Zutz's wife, Dar, and Marilyn. tonight when we go to bed and please myself. Paula did a healing circle for me at DE. I was on that feeding tube for over a year, and when Paula did that, and credit to Peter Hamlinger as well, he did breathing meditation up in his room for me. But that night I was able to eat a steak for the first time in over a year. I don't know if there's anybody out there that hasn't eaten anything for a year, but you cannot imagine how pleasant that was. Um, so I thought also is what I do is tell a quick testimonial, because that's what gets me so fired up about being a chiropractor and going to DE, is to hear all the testimonials. And one of my favorite testimonials was the lady named Leanne. Her husband was coming in here for years, and he didn't tell me that his wife had a stroke under anesthesia and couldn't walk, couldn't talk, was bound to a wheelchair. Well, she lost function of her colon, and basically her stomach would get out to here like she was pregnant, and she would have to go in to the ER. They would do stuff to flush her out, and on all kinds of medication to try to stimulate the bowel into functioning, and nothing was working. So they told her husband, the colon's dead. We're going to have to do surgery and take it out, put her on a colostomy bag. And oh, by the way, since she had a stroke under anesthesia the first time, we're going to have to do the surgery and take the risk. And so he came in and he said, can you help my wife? I said, I don't know, but we've got absolutely nothing to lose. Get her in here. And she came in, and after a couple of adjustments, she went one time. And anyway, we got to watch her stomach go from pregnant down to normal. And she was coming in for years and doing really well. Unfortunately, she had to go in for another procedure, and she did end up having a stroke and passing away from that procedure. But I'm so blessed to be able to take care of people like that. Sorry. And so Paula asked me last time at DE, and I get questions all the time about, now that you've been through this, do you want to take care of cancer patients and focus on cancer patients? And my answer is no. I don't want to limit to that. I love seeing the miracles in chiropractic. I want to continue on seeing as many miracles as possible and taking care of as many people as possible. It's a blessing to be part of DE. I love my family there, and can't wait to see you all. And I think that's about all I got, Brian. Thank you very much. Can't hear you, Brian.
Oh, see? All right, there we go. All right, sorry about that. Jamie, dude, that was awesome, brother. If you guys are watching that, hit the hearts, hit the likes, and put a comment down there, because Dr. Jamie Siller, you are a living legend. That was such a great story to share. We love you. Everyone loves you. What an incredible story, man. You really took us into the depths and showed me a bunch of things that I didn't actually know about you. I mean, really, you look pretty good for a dead guy. I'm going to say that.
Yeah, we're not there yet, Brian.
Dude, you're kicking butt, and the next time I wake up and I'm like tired and can't get out of bed, I'm gonna think about how much you've gone through, being bolted to a table, having that story in the ER about your brother saying, "Get the F out of the way." Dude, that was awesome. What a great, great testimony to share.
Thank you. Glad to do it.
So, yeah, guys, put some comments up there. Put some hearts for Jamie if you like what you heard. And Jamie, keep kicking butt. I was there at that healing circle that Paula did, and man, this stuff works, man. DE works, and God works, and you're just living proof of that, man. So keep kicking butt out there in Yuba City. Get that practice growing and growing, and kiss that beautiful wife of yours as well.
For sure. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night.